Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be talking about the Ram Dakota because we actually have some big updates for the new Ram Dakota. Before getting into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below, and then if you can see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. Now let's first quickly talk about what this Ram Dakota actually is. So it is Ram's new mid-size truck, and I'm going to put that in quotations because obviously we had the Dodge Dakota back in the day, but that was discontinued like a decade ago, and so we're basically getting the nameplate back, but with a new mid-size truck. Now with the specs on this truck, we don't have a lot of stuff confirmed quite yet, but we have a lot to go off of in terms of what this truck will most likely look like and contain. So first off, when it comes to the platform, there are several different options. Ram actually sells a smaller size truck overseas, and so they could basically just kind of change some things on that truck and then sell it here in the US. Or they could take the Jeep Gladiator platform and kind of repurpose that for a Ram Dakota. Or they could take the DT platform that the Ram 1500 rides on and the new Jeep Wagoneer as well, and again repurpose that for the Dakota. It's still up in the air, but they're probably going to use some sort of existing platform they already have and repurpose it for this truck to obviously keep costs down. Now, just like most mid-size trucks on the market, it's going to have independent front suspension and a solid rear axle. It is very unlikely that Ram is going to go for independent rear suspension, but there actually has been some talks of Ram going to independent rear suspension with the Ram 1500. They're doing it with the Ram 1500 EV for sure, but potentially just with the standard Ram 1500 when they do a full redesign. So that could be something we see with the Dakota, but right now we're going to stick with solid rear axle. Now the big thing with this truck that'll differentiate it from other mid-size trucks is it'll have multi-link in the rear end, just like the Ram 1500 and the Ram 2500. This is something that Ram is known for at this point. So yeah, they'll do multi-link. They won't do leaf springs in the rear, and then it'll obviously have Ram's new styling, so it'll basically kind of look like a baby Ram 1500, but it'll have its own design cues. And then the big thing is that this Dakota will also have an interior very similar to the Ram 1500, where it'll be more upscale compared to other trucks on the market. The only thing that will truly compete with it when it comes to interior quality will probably be the new GMC Canyon Denali. But I mean, if you look at a current GMC Sierra 1500 Denali and compare it to a Ram 1500 Limited, well, the Ram 1500 Limited has a slightly nicer interior when it comes to overall material use, because Ram uses way more wood than everyone else. They use way more leather, and so their interiors just feel a little bit more dressed up, and so this Dakota will surely carry that. And then Ram going with their kind of new brand image of kind of having just tough and rugged trucks will also have some cool off-road packages with this new Dakota, where they'll basically have a Rebel package. They might even do a Dakota TRX. This is something that I talked about in the previous video, where I said that Ram is perfectly poised to release an amazing high-performance mid-size truck that would be extremely popular, because they have the new Hurricane inline 6 that's going in the Ram 1500. If they just put that engine in the Dakota and then put the TRX nameplate on it, and again gave it the Bilstein shocks from the TRX, obviously they'd be a little bit less beefy because they don't have to take the massive weight hits you have to take from a TRX, but you guys get the point. It would just be a super fun truck. Think mid-size truck, 400-ish horsepower, wide body, again just baby TRX. People would absolutely go for that. So lots of options. And that leads me to the last part, is the powertrains. Now this is another thing that's kind of up in the air, but we kind of have a better idea of where Ram is going to go based on what Stellantis is pushing for. Stellantis is pushing for a lot more hybridization and EV-ication. That's a new word, EV-ication. I'm making that a new word. So it will for sure have a hybrid powertrain. It might just get the 4xe powertrain that is in the Jeep Wrangler, and then there might even also be an electric version, because again, that's just what the Stellantis corporate overlords want for all of the brands under their umbrella. But with that being said, if it comes out soon enough, then it might basically have a similar powertrain setup to the Jeep Gladiator. 3.6 liter V6 is standard, and then maybe the EcoDiesel will be offered, but at the same time, the EcoDiesel is kind of out in its way, so I doubt that they would throw that into a new vehicle. It's more likely that we'll see, a base powertrain that's, again, probably the 3.6 liter V6, then we'll have a hybrid, and then maybe, a high performance powertrain for something like the Dakota TRX. And now that you're up to date on, the specs on this Dakota, or, what it looks like the specs are going to be, this is where we have some big updates. So in a recent video, I talked about how Stellantis shut down the factory that builds Jeep Cherokees because Jeep's lineup has just gotten a little bit too bulky. I mean, you've got the Renegade, you've got the Compass, you've got the Cherokee, you've got the Grand Cherokee, and then you've got the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, even though the Grand Wagoneer is not a Jeep, it's a Wagoneer. But anyways, you've got a ton of different vehicles. And the Wrangler, I forgot to mention the Wrangler, of course. Like, I own a Wrangler and I forgot to mention it. But the point that I'm trying to make here is Jeep has a ton of SUVs and a lot of SUVs in that like kind of smaller, crossover segment. And so they're pretty much going to be killing off the Cherokee. Now, this factory is not going to be sold. They're still going to have this factory. And so what they've said is that they plan on using this factory for something in the future. Now, we all know that pickup trucks are still extremely hot. Like, this is what everyone wants, especially mid-size pickup trucks. Mid-size pickup trucks are amazing when it comes to sales volume, right? Look at the Toyota Tacoma. Toyota sells a bajillion of them. And they're also pretty good for profitability as well. They're not as profitable as full-size trucks, but they're still really profitable. And so there's a pretty high chance that that factory that just had all of its workers laid off and, is pretty much shut down, well, it's not shut down yet, but it will be soon, will be retooled to build this new Dakota. Now, they obviously could use other factories, but this would be perfect because the Dakota will surely sell in similar volume amounts to the Cherokee or potentially even higher. And so, it makes reasonable sense for them to go that route. Now, the next big piece of news is that it looks like the Dakota has been slightly delayed. I know that it hasn't even been officially announced yet, but it looks like it is continuing to be pushed off, and this is for a number of reasons. So first off, Stellantis is doing a lot of restructuring with all of the brands under their umbrella because they're trying to basically have this massive corporate goal when it comes to fuel economy ratings and then also profitability as well. And so with this restructuring, it's kind of basically putting us in a time period where we're just having a slight pause on a lot of new product that's being released. And then on top of that, well, just like a lot of other manufacturers, they still have, supply chain constraints that they are dealing with. And so right now there's still kind of a focus on just building, the vehicles that are in the current lineups and focusing on, basically fulfilling orders and everything before there's a focus made on producing new product, which I think is smart because if you look at Ford, they have done the opposite where they've continued to release new product and they can't build the product that people want, the new product that they're releasing, but then they're able to build the old product that people don't really want. And so it's putting them in an interesting situation, and Stellantis is seeing that, and so they're trying to avoid that. So they're trying to not release new product that's going to hype people up that they won't be able to produce in massive numbers because that is not going to lead to profitability, which is really important for Stellantis. So the main point from this section is that the Dakota is being pushed off a little bit, and so what it looks like is happening is we're basically going to have to get through the rest of this 2022 sales year and a little bit into the 2023 sales year, where Ram is going to just be focusing on, getting the 2023 Ram 1500, 2500, and 3500s out in the world. And then once that is kind of passed, then we will most likely get our official announcement on this Dakota and a more concrete, build date and everything. So that leaves us with two really big questions. First off, when is this actually going to be released? And then also, how much is it going to cost? And here's the thing that's funny is the further that Ram pushes this back in terms of the release, the more it's going to cost because, well, material prices seem to keep going up. And then, new vehicle prices, they just keep going up. Like, it's crazy how expensive these new vehicles have gotten. And so, yeah, the longer Ram takes to release this new Dakota, the more unaffordable it gets. So when it comes to an official release date, obviously we don't know yet, but I think with everything that's happening, it's pretty safe to assume that it's going to happen sometime next year. And so, maybe the middle of next year, potentially the end of next year. So this is not any deliveries or anything. This is just like Ram saying, hey, we are releasing this truck and you can put an order in for this truck. Now, when it comes to actually, physically taking delivery of a truck, I wouldn't expect anything until 2024. So the earliest that this truck will come is as a 2024 model year, but there is potential it could be a 2025 model year with all of the delays that we are currently seeing. And then again, all of this restructuring that is happening under the Stellantis umbrella. Now, when it comes down to pricing, This is where things get kind of dicey. So we're currently in a car market where most automakers are focusing on high-end, expensive vehicles because that's the demographic that still has money to purchase vehicles. And so Ram, just like other automakers, aren't really incentivized to build something super affordable. And so they could build, a stripped down version of this Dakota that would be somewhere in the $30,000 price range with two-wheel drive, and then maybe four-wheel drive will bump it up a bit more than that. But that's probably not what's going to happen. What's probably going to happen is at launch, we'll get the higher end packages on the Dakota, like a Dakota Limited, for example. And again, if they do a TRX package on it, or maybe a Rebel package. And so at release, it'll probably end up being, just like the other midsize trucks we're starting to see, Toyota Tacoma, GMC Canyon, Chevy Colorado, in the $50,000 range for the loaded up packages, maybe, somewhere in the $40,000 range for less options on a loaded up package, but that is most likely where the truck is going to sit. So yeah, eventually there probably will be a base model that'll be $30-something thousand, but again, just with where the market's going and with how expensive these mid-sized trucks are getting, don't be shocked if you see a sticker price on this new Dakota that is as expensive as the competition. And so if I were to break up each package on the Dakota, I would say that, a tradesman package, right, a base model work truck type Dakota probably starts somewhere in the low 30s, and then with four-wheel drive, probably closer to the mid 30s. And if you had like a bighorn package on the Dakota, then you're probably looking at, high 30s, low 40s. And then if you go to like a Laramie, mid 40s with that, and then something like a Limited is probably going to start over $50,000. And then, same thing with the Rebel package, probably a little bit less than the Limited though, similar to how the, regular Ram 1500 does from pricing structure. And then if they did a TRX Dakota, well, I hate to say this, but it's probably going to be like a $60,000 plus truck, which is crazy because when the new body style Ram 1500 came out, like this pricing structure that I just talked about is pretty dang close to how much the new Ram 1500 was, the DT body style 2019, when it was initially released. A little bit less, but pretty dang close. Now I want you guys to let me know what you think about this new Dakota, especially with all of this new information. And again, quick disclaimer, like this isn't official pricing or anything like that. I just need to say that so that I don't get in trouble with the Ram. I've never had any of the automakers say anything, but just to play it safe. And so once they officially announce the truck, then we'll get official pricing and everything. But I feel like based on everything that's happening with the market, this will end up being pretty accurate. I'll see you guys.